your films are happy.
I hope so. I don't know. Sometimes it depends. You know.
But when we see Blue Brothers,
Well, no, that's a happy movie. Yeah.
They are very happy. You belong to a golden age of cinema, isn't it?
Well, we didn't know it at the time, but it was a time where filmmakers were given a lot more respect by the studios, so we could be freer and do wackier things.
One of your films, do you have a special predilection for anyone?
There are things I like in all of them. There are scenes I like in all of them, but it's hard to separate the movie from the experience of making the movie, you know. So it depends. I mean, The Animal House was a pleasure, and I liked the movie, and The Blues Brothers was crazy, and I liked the movie, and American Werewolf was really a pleasure, because I was negative pickup, so I was signing the checks, so I didn't have to fight with anybody, so that was great. The movie I think is very funny is Three Amigos. I enjoy Three Amigos, and I love making it, because it's a Western. And Westerns are the most fun to make, because you're riding around on horses, and it's really fun.
How do you think, how is it to have a son that's now following your son?
Well, he's not following me. He's doing fantastic, Max. He's doing wonderfully well. He learned that, you know, the writer in the movie, in television, the way it works is the writer is the most important person on a series. But in the movies, a writer can, I mean, Max wrote a script, Frankenstein, which I thought was like one of the best scripts I've ever read, and the director and the producer totally fucked it. I mean, the movie's terrible, and it broke my heart, you know, and Max was like, what did they do? And it's funny because, you know, people don't understand how movies are made, so they don't know. They see a movie like Frankenstein and they say, well, bad script. No, it was a great script. It's a bad movie. But he's doing very well. He's got a lot of movies going. David Ayer's about to direct a movie called Bright with Will Smith that Max wrote. That's wonderful, and I hope. And he's right now in Vancouver being the showrunner of a TV series, a brand new TV series called Dirk Gently, Holistic Detective. It's based on a book by Douglas Adams that Max is doing, and I hope that goes well. And you know, Max is phenomenally successful. I mean, he sold like 10 movies so far. It's amazing.
But you are orienting him, or no? He's living his life?
Oh, I have nothing to do with it. No, Max, he's on his own, you know, I don't...
One of your films that have been maybe not very much evaluated, because it's a wonderful film, you spoke about it this morning, is Innocent Blood, isn't it?
Innocent Blood? But, yeah.
Don't you think it's...
Oh, I like it. I like
Innocent Blood. It's a wonderful film, isn't it?
It's funny. It's, you know, it's I think that it's like Burke Hare. I mean, Innocent Blood is a romantic comedy, whereas American Werewolf is a horror film. So when I made the last movie, I made Burke Hare, I think people expected a horror film. And it's a very dark, it's a very black romantic comedy. You know, it's about two murderers. And the irony of, have you ever seen Burke Hare?
Yes.
Because the irony of that is, it's of all the movies based on Burke Hare, it's the most accurate, historically accurate. But it's silly, you know.
When you made American Werewolf, you had conscience that it would be a huge success?
No. You never know if something's good.
No?
Never. You never know.
When you are invited to be an actor, like in Tales of Halloween, do you feel like you felt when you were 20 years old doing things just for
well,
fun?
you know, so it depends what it is. Usually I do it just to get practice, because it's very scary being in front of the camera, you know. And I even though I've been in like 75 movies, it's scary, you know, so it's to make you have more empathy with the actors. But I was only in Tales of Halloween. I've never seen that movie. I've never seen it, but I was in it because the guy who made Ryan Schifrin, who did the episode I'm in, he asked me to do it, and I've known him since he was a little boy, so I said, okay. His father's Lalo Schifrin, the great composer. So, but I haven't seen it. Is it any good?
Yeah, you stole the show.
I stole the show?
Yeah.
Must be pretty bad if I stole the show. I worked 3 hours. That must have been a very small part.
We met Axel Caroline here in Nocturna 3 years ago.
Say again?
We met Axel Caroline here in Noturna 3 years ago.
You met her 3
Yes.
years ago.
So
Yeah.
we
No,
were
I've known her.
expecting the film for a while.
She's made a couple of movies.
Yeah.
She's married to Neil
Neil Marshall.
Neil Marshall,
Yeah.
yes, it's also our friends. Blues Brother was a good experience in terms of freedom of directing, of making what you want.
It was a great experience, except for the fact that John Belushi on that movie became, well, just before that movie, but had a drug problem. He became addicted to cocaine, and that made him drink, and eventually killed him. And that was difficult because I loved him, and he was a great person and a great talent. And the Blues Brothers, sometimes it was rough. You know, not on Animal House, he was clean, it was great, wonderful. Blues Brothers, that's the only bad part about the Blues Brothers, was sometimes it was difficult because of John's drug problems.
And you know, in Portugal, Trading Places, the translation was The Rich and the Poor.
The Rich and the Poor.
Yes, in fact, the title was The Rich and the
I don't, you know, it's sometimes the titles of the movies are so strange. I mean, in Animal House in France, they called it American College. And in Kentucky Fried Movie in France, they called it Hamburger Film Sandwich. You know, I don't know. I don't know why they changed it.
For someone that has been in...
Well, Innocent Blood, they changed to like a French vampire in Pittsburgh or something. It's terrible.
Yes.
Terrible title.
In fact, in Portugal, they don't change the title, they use the original title.
Oh, good.
Yeah, most of the times.
Alguma pergunta? How do you feel this new generation? Because you belong to a generation that is wonderful in terms of fantastic and terror and so on. How do you feel this new generation can handle can deliver the promises that?
I think that there'll be talented filmmakers and make good movies. You know, every generation has talents, like every country has talent. It just has to be given the opportunities. And very often, the people have to make their own opportunities. You know, it's like, because luck really is 50% of it, and then the other 50% have to make the luck. You know? So I think they'll be good filmmakers, absolutely.
It had been important for you to begin working very young in the studios systems and to meet how they work.
Well, what was interesting to me, you know, both my wife and I were very successful very young. And so, for one thing, it meant that growing up in Hollywood, growing up in Los Angeles, you know, I was a boy in the 50s and 60s growing up in LA, all the inventors of the language, the people who made, you know, were still alive. So I was able to meet everybody from Hal Roach to, you know, Alan Dwan. I mean, I met Howard Hawks, Hitchcock, Capra, I mean, all of them. And it was George Stevens and George Cukor. I mean, I really made a point of going out and meeting these people and Billy Wilder and everybody. And I became close to many of them, but it was a real opportunity, and I was aware of what a special opportunity it was. And what's weird is that I came in the studio system, like, did you ever see Fantasia? Remember in Fantasia, The Rite of Spring, when all the dinosaurs are dying and they're crawling? That's when I came into Hollywood, when the dinosaurs were dying, the studios were dying, you know. And so I lived through that. It was interesting.
But it was very difficult to direct a movie those times. Now it's much more easy, isn't it? With more technology, it's much more...
Well, what do you mean, of getting the job or making a movie?
Making the movie.
Making a movie hasn't changed at all. I mean, if you look at a production still from 1915 and a production still from 2016, there'll be a camera or a recording device on sticks, actors in front of it, crew behind it. It's still piecework, shot by shot by shot, you make the movie. It's exactly the same. The tools have changed, the technology changes. And you're right, I mean, because of digital, now it's more accessible for more people. For instance, I saw a movie a year ago, called Lipstick. Do you know this movie? And it was made on an iPhone. You know, it's amazing. So, yes, I think it's less expensive. I don't think it's easier. I think it's more accessible. You don't need as much money, but I don't think it's easier. I think filmmaking's the same.
Do you still feel that anxious to make a new film?
I enjoy filmmaking. I like the process. I like shooting a movie. I like everything about it. The only part of the process I dislike is getting the money. That's but making movies I enjoy. So sure, I always want to make movies. I do a lot of commercials because it's filmmaking, but you don't have your name on it, and it doesn't matter. They pay
And
a lot.
they pay well.
Pay very well, and I do that a lot all over the world because it's fun and easy. But to make a movie, I want, unfortunately, the kind of films I like are not mainstream. They're not studio pictures, so in order to make the kind of movies I like, it's increasingly difficult because they're weird movies.
You agree that you made a revolution in the video clips?
I'm sorry?
You agree that you have made a huge revolution in music?
Music videos.
Videos.
Oh, because of Thriller?
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, it was very successful. It had a lot of impact.
A lot, and it began to, well, it was the standard of the video clip.
Well, people spent more money. But I don't know. You know, everybody's influenced by everything, so I can't say that I did something. I mean, you know, I certainly have made very influential movies. That's true.
Is there, you also spoke about the European directors. Is there any big difference between American directors and European, like Bertolucci and so on?
Oh, truthfully? No. Filmmakers are filmmakers. You know, there are differences in people. But, you know, when you travel as much as I have and worked, I've made films in 15 countries and all over the United States and Canada and stuff. What's fascinating is people, individual people, whether they're Inuit Eskimos or Portuguese or French or German or from Panama, individual people are the same everywhere. Groups, when they get in groups, they get scary and they get different. But I'm serious, but on a person-to-person basis, they're pretty much the same all over the world. Even the Chinese, who are aliens, but you know, it's on a one-to-one basis, people are pretty much the same. So I think that the directors, obviously they're impacted by their experience and their culture, but a filmmaker's a filmmaker. You know, I mean, because Buñuel was Spanish, that doesn't mean his films don't speak to me. Or Kurosawa's Japanese doesn't mean his films don't speak to me, you know. I think filmmakers are all different kinds, just like painters or sculptors.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.